All right, welcome everybody to Talking Sports with me, Chris Powers. Another Monday, and of course, whether you're listening to us and watching us in the New Orleans area, the Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Morgan City, also parts of Livingston Parish and Ascension Parish, thanks for joining us here on this Monday. Lots to talk about today. We're going to talk about, Brian Kelly was on a national show just a couple of weeks ago and talked about the NIL cap space, how there needs to be one. The national media took another turn of ripping him up. I'm tired of that. I'm sick of that. Leave Brian Kelly alone. He's a very good coach, and I think one of the best coaches, and he's going to bring that to LSU coming up. I think he's going to dominate for the Southeastern Conference for a while. Coach Carlos Funchess, inducted in the Louisiana Basketball Hall of Fame. He's the head coach of the Lady Jaguars Southern basketball team. We'll talk to him coming up. Also, the LSU softball team getting ready for the SEC tournament this week, as well as Southern baseball had a good weekend this weekend, and they will play again today against Alcorn State and the Braves. But we lead off with LSU baseball. We said a couple of weeks ago that don't give up on the Tigers. So many fans were giving up on LSU for making the NCAA tournament. I reminded you about Ole Miss, how a couple of years ago Ole Miss was the last team to get in the NCAA tournament, and that's even after they lost their first game against the Vanderbilt Commodores in the SEC tournament. They still went, and they went on a 10-2 run and won their very first national championship. LSU, of course, on paper, as one of the best teams in the nation. But if games were won on paper, we'd have paper cuts and not surgeries to knees and elbows and shoulders and all of that. LSU had a big win this weekend as they won their third SEC series in a row. They beat number one Texas A&M. LSU is now 9-15 of the SEC, which put them, if the tournament was to be held today, LSU would be the 11th seed in the SEC tournament. They're 31-18 overall, and RPI going into the A&M series was 43rd. Today, they are 34th. It came out early this morning. Alabama, a team they're going to play coming up, is 14th in the RPI. They have won 7 of their last 10 games overall by combined 77 runs to the opponent's 43. We know that they scored 26 against Grambling State. They've also won 6 out of the last 9 SEC games. Right now, joining us to the line is the voice of the LSU Tigers, one of the best play-by-play guys there is. His name is Chris Blair. Chris, how are you doing, my man?
Well, Chris, I'm doing well, man. Coming off what I think was a very successful weekend for Jay Johnson and the Tigers, and again, we get down to the wire here with 6 SEC games remaining, just 7 games overall that you're guaranteed here in 2024. So, as Jay Johnson said after yesterday's tough loss, 14-4. They're in a fight. They're still in a fight, and they're going to be in a fight tomorrow night against Northwestern State. They'll be in a fight coming up this weekend on the road in Alabama, and then to finish it out against Ole Miss. Those are the opportunities that lie ahead. It's easy when you have a 56-game season to say, well, they all weigh the same, and in fact they do. But when you get to this point and you've got 9 conference wins, most people feel like you got to have 13 to give yourself a chance. 14 certainly would help. That makes things difficult, doable, but not easy.
No question. This team looks like it finally is playing like we knew they could. Did that first series win against Missouri turn this team around?
Yeah, I think so. I think there were some of the guys who last year were along for the ride, but were everyday guys, came in spots, whether it be defensively or at the plate with pinch hitting opportunities, or even coming off, coming out of the bullpen, that kind of had to learn what it takes every single day, the focus it takes every single game, and then just get a group of guys, some of which who played together, some of which were newcomers. I think it took a little longer than Jay had hoped it to, certainly much longer than fans hoped it would. But as I remind people a lot, and I have to remind myself sometimes, Chris, that, yes, Paul Skeens went number 1, Dylan went number 2, but and those were 2 big losses, but you're also without Gavin Dugas, who's playing pretty well in single-A ball. You're out without Kate Beloso, Braden Joubert, Trey Morgan. No disrespect to Paul and Dylan, but right. There were more than just those two you had to replace. It was, right. And I think we've seen that this year from this team. But, Jay said it a bunch. You hear coaches in baseball, college baseball, say it all the time. It's not, this time of year, it's not the best team. It's the team that's playing its best. So hopefully since that Missouri series, we've seen an uptick as again, they've won 9 out of their last 12. And, I think they've got plenty of positives to build on. And again, every opportunity is huge. They've got to rack up wins, and they'll get another chance on Tuesday. And then that road series at Alabama. And, I'll say this, too. You got Alabama and Ole Miss remaining on your schedule. When you look at the SEC standings, those are two teams, three teams, actually, that will be battling each other over the next 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And every one of them fighting for their postseason line.
There's no question about that. LSU is 5-3 on Fridays in the SEC. They're 3-5 on Saturdays and just 1-7 on Sundays. From the outside looking in, would that mean that the day 3 pitcher is still kind of a guessing game right now, even though that Nate has started 3 of the last 4 Sundays?
Yeah, I think you take Ackenhausen, who, middle part of the year and going back to the beginning part of the year was kind of the guy you were relying on to come out of the bullpen. And then the inability to find a true Game 3 starter, that's what we've seen since the Missouri series. Last week we were unable to do so. They went with him out of the bullpen in Game 2 to make sure they got that series victory. And, of course, he had a slight hamstring injury. But, I think it's pretty obvious, the Tigers have been outscored tremendously in Game 3. As you mentioned, they're 1-7 in Game 3s in the SEC. And I want to say, don't hold me to the exact runs, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 78-34. They've been outscored in Game 3 games in the SEC. So, when you see run rule games on Game 3, or you see a game like yesterday that went 9 innings but was 14-4, you immediately think the pitching is the issue. But I'll be honest, there's been a lack of offense in the same right in those Game 3 opportunities in the SEC. It's kind of been both of the issues: the inability to score, leaving men on base, missing those clutch hits when you need them. You look back at yesterday, LSU was up 3-0 over Texas A&M and had opportunities to add to that lead and just weren't able to do so. And frankly, against most everybody in the SEC, certainly the top echelon of the league, 3 runs is not going to cut it.
No, not especially this day and age, because it's unbelievable. There have been 3 different starters and pitching on Friday, 2 on Saturday and 5 on Sunday. Gage, Jump, and Luke Holman have been back and forth as the 1 and 2 starters for this season. Jump has started 4 Fridays in a row. How do you think he settled into that day 1 spot?
I think it works very well, and Jay reminds us all a lot that he was highly touted coming out of high school, but he had very limited college experience due to injury. So when we saw him early this year, which mainly was the Game 2 starter, he was just kind of learning, and getting that experience in not only in college baseball but at the SEC baseball level. Mm-hmm. These hitters in these lineups are very unforgiving. But I think once you had those 2 weeks back-to-back where it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they kind of caught in a groove where they wanted to keep Holman on schedule, and they were able to do that in the second week and put Jump in the Game 1 spot, and then they've kind of stayed that way. And really, going back to last weekend against Auburn, it was really the first weekend where both Gage and Luke had back-to-back really solid performances. But we saw that again this week. I think Luke Holman did a tremendous job on Saturday, got roughed up early, but that inning in the top of the first could have been a lot worse. He was certainly lucky to get out of it. Not lucky, he was able to navigate his way out of it to keep it just a 3-0 game. And there were a couple other innings early in the contest where, they were threatening. So I think now that you have Jump and Holman kind of in a groove both with those 1-2 starts, and again, I think the problem has been at times you got to go to Griffin Herring earlier than you want to. You've had to go with Nate Ackenhausen when you would really like to be able to have him fully rested for a Game 3 start. Mm-hmm. And so, while you look at the inability to find starting pitchers, I think at times this LSU bullpen, which has pitched better of late, has also been an issue that doesn't allow you, because you're having to rely on your top guys out of the bullpen in Game 1 and in Game 2 to make sure you get victories.
Let's talk about now at the plate. Like I said, you're one of the most exciting play-by-play guys there is. I was listening to your call when Josh Pearson hit that walk-off single to win the game last week. I mean, it seems like every time he gets to the plate and there's runners on, and he did it yesterday. He knocked Tommy White in from second base to make it a 3-0 game at that time. But Josh Pearson seems to come through at the clutch times. Even though he's only batting .250, he still comes through in clutch times.
Well, that's what Coach Johnson talks about all the time. I mean, really, he and Alex Milazzo, I would think, along with Hayden Travinski, obviously, are kind of the heart and soul of this team. And Pearson's had so many clutch moments going back to his freshman year, going back to last season, made a couple of big plays in Omaha and had a couple of big at-bats in the postseason. And it almost seems like he just has a knack when there's a big moment in the game, there's a chance to get on the board, maybe tie the game, take the lead, or extend the lead. You can just go back and look at some of the big moments where Pearson has delivered at the plate. And, again, when I look at this LSU team, as they start to make a run and they've started to figure things out, it's guys like Josh Pearson, Alex Milazzo, Hayden Travinski, and frankly, some of the sophomore class, including Paxton Kling, who has struggled offensively this season. I think those guys, key moments and delivering for their team will be big if LSU hopes to go anywhere. Number one, get into the postseason, but number two, make a little noise.
No question. SEC is, every year it's almost the same way, but this year it's really big. They're beating each other up like crazy. Texas A&M lost 2 out of 3. Arkansas lost 2 out of 3. That makes Tennessee now the new number one team in the nation. This is unbelievable. Like you talked about, a big series with Alabama coming up. They're one game ahead of us in the SEC, but yet they rank 14th in the RPI. They're out of the top 25 that came out today. Ole Miss is tied with us at 9-15, and we play them coming up. So it's put up or shut up time coming up with the last 2 SEC series of the year.
No doubt. You saw a couple of, as you said, Kentucky and Arkansas battling. A Kentucky team that, again, doesn't have a lot of power. And it's amazing what Coach Mingione's been able to do this year, picking up, 35-10 on the year, as you said, 18-6 in the league. They take 2 of 3 from Arkansas, and able to keep themselves right now atop the SEC for a possible conference championship. But, again, Kentucky does it different ways. Tennessee is probably the most complete offense when you look at home runs and doubles. Georgia, of course, is in that conversation for offense because of what Condon does and the number of home runs the Bulldogs have hit, but it hasn't translated into enough wins. Going into this past weekend, I actually thought Texas A&M might be the most complete team, simply because they were near the top offensively, they were near the top as far as team ERA. They don't have, dominant starting pitching, but they have really good bullpen players. But I'll be honest, after watching Texas A&M, again, I think it was a little bit of an anomaly because they had 5 errors over the series, and they were the number one defensive team coming in. I think Tennessee and Kentucky maybe are the 2 teams that I would be most concerned about for the rest of the field once we get to the NCAA tournament. I think Kentucky will be a top 8 seed. I think Tennessee will be a top 8 seed. I think Arkansas and Texas A&M. So there's 4 of the top 8 seeds that, for me, are going to be SEC venues. And then you start to look at, the teams that are there between the 5 and 14 in the league, and that's where you start seeing over these next 2 weekends, you could see a dramatic shift from a team that may be 7th, 6th, or 5th in the East or West Division, be able to quickly leapfrog depending on what happens in other places and depending on what they do. And LSU certainly is one of them. As you said, a game behind Alabama, tied with Ole Miss as far as conference wins are concerned. Suddenly LSU, if they're able to have success over the next 2 weekends, they can put both Alabama and Ole Miss in the rear view. That's how important these final 2 weekends are. And as I said, you got 6 games remaining. You got 9 conference wins. Conventional wisdom tells you if you're an SEC team with 13 conference wins, you're going to get a chance. You're going to travel, but you're going to go to a regional. 14, you're almost a lock. And that means, I'm no mathematician, but you've got 6 opportunities, you got 9 wins. To lock it down, you need to win 5 out of 6. To give yourself a chance, you got to win 4 out of 6. And if you're Ole Miss and you're Alabama, that's the same conversation they are having right now in Oxford and Tuscaloosa.
No question about that. And so, obviously, I mean, it'd be tough for LSU to make the top 16, which would be an NCAA host. So more than likely, like you said, they more than likely will have to travel. But at least they wouldn't miss the tournament for the first time since 2011. That's before you were even there. It's hard to fathom that LSU would make the NCAA tournament. And it seems like all the time they send us to Corvallis, and it looks like Oregon State is back in the mix of hosting an NCAA tournament. I think they're 9th in RPI right now. But at least LSU would make it, and I think if they can make it, they've got a good shot as any to make it. Again, I go back to that Ole Miss deal, and where the Ole Miss Rebels, lost that first game against Vanderbilt 2 seasons ago, then were the last team picked in the NCAA tournament, and they went on a 10-2 run to win their very first national championship. So LSU could possibly do it. Wake Forest is not as big as they thought they would be this year. Florida also was expected to have a good team this year. They're down a little bit as well this year. So if LSU makes it into the tournament, it's anybody's tournament for question.
Oh, well, certainly. Again, I go back to that 13th magic number. I mean, that's what Ole Miss was able to hit when they got hot down the stretch that actually started in Baton Rouge in 2022, and it got them on a run and eventually won a title. You look at Florida this year, a team that is 10-14 in the league, but they're flirting with 500, and you're not going to get an invite if you're not above 500 overall. And so they've got some work to do. Again, they're 24-23 on the season. And again, all you're asking for is to get in. It is great to be a top 8 seed. It is great to be in the top 16. Certainly all the advantages that we all know about playing in your own venue. But baseball's a funny game. And so if you can just get into the mix, a lot of things can happen. And again, I think they're playing their best baseball. I don't think they've reached the apex yet, but they're playing much better than they have. And, the trick is just to get in. That is the key. And, I think that's important for a lot of reasons. As you said, LSU is typically a mainstay in postseason baseball and has for a long, long time, the last time they missed out on it. But you also are trying to be the first national champion to not, miss out on the NCAA the following year. So there's plenty to play for, but, again, got to go out and make it happen.
No question about that. You can listen to his call, of course, tomorrow night as LSU will play their final non-conference game, and then, of course, this weekend they're going to Tuscaloosa, Alabama to play a 3-game set with the Alabama Crimson Tide, and then after that, the 3-game set with the Ole Miss Rebels to end the season and go into the SEC tournament. Hopefully that will happen. Chris Blair, one of the best. He paints a perfect picture every time. The only thing missing is like a bag of popcorn or peanuts in your hand, because he paints that perfect picture every single time that you listen to his baseball broadcast. I enjoy it. I know a lot of people do as well. Chris Blair, you're one of the best. Thank you as always for being on the show, my friend.
You got it, man. Anytime. Appreciate it. Let's do it again soon.
Chris Blair. Thank you, buddy. All right, so LSU again, big game coming up right here this weekend against the Alabama Crimson Tide. That game will be on the LSU Sports Radio Network. All right, when we come back, the national media just won't leave Brian Kelly alone. He talked about the NIL cap space. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports TV.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouget today.
We already know that TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10 is home to the world-famous baby back ribs. But did you know they're also champs in catering events and the most delicious wings in Baton Rouge? TJ Ribs wings are flavored to perfection and starts a party in your mouth. Served with homemade wing sauce and ranch dressing. TJ Ribs can also cater any event, large or small, with the MVP, the Heisman, or even if you're feeling the Natty Package. Call 225-283-1035. Come enjoy a drink at the 50-foot bar and take a picture with the Heisman Trophy at TJ Ribs, a Baton Rouge original for over 30 years on Acadian and I-10.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And I'm Chris Powers. We're talking sports right here. Of course, seen in the New Orleans area. 89% of the metro New Orleans can watch Cox Cable, and also almost 50% of the Baton Rouge area. Or actually, it's over 50%. It's 50% of the Lafayette market, and about almost 75% of Baton Rouge still has Cox Cable, shown in over 2 million households. Whether you're on the Pelican Sports app, you can also go to the YouTube channel as well. Great sponsors like TJ Ribs and attorney Tony Clayton. Well, the national media just don't know when to stop bashing Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly was on God Bless Football, and he was asked about the NIL and if he likes it. He was also asked if it would force him to retire like Nick Saban did. Then gives us a current state of LSU football. This is what he had to say on that show, God Bless Football.
Well, if we had a salary cap, I'd be okay with it. But there's no salary cap. I mean, that's the issue, really. I mean, if we all were operating under, the same guidelines, at least we could, know, okay, this is what we've got. But that's really the biggest issue. But look, the parallels, you're right. I mean, look, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, they're all looking for that rookie signing bonus. We're out there recruiting seniors in high school. They're looking for that freshman signing bonus. The transfer portal, he's looking for a free agent bonus. And then the guys on your roster, they want retention bonuses. So, look, it parallels. NIL money is broken down into the three categories that the NFL is paying out. And we're doing the same thing. Unfortunately, we're doing without a salary cap. And that's where it makes it just absolutely crazy, because you just don't know, what the numbers are from year to year. So, college football is in a great place. We know there's a lot of money. The problem is nobody knows what this is going to look like in a couple of years. And if anybody does, please let me know. But we just have to figure out how to cap this so we can move forward. Quite honestly, look, this is my 33rd year, and my why is player development and developing players and the relationships with players. And I can tell a parent, look, I can help develop your son be a better husband, a better father, a better technically and tactically. I can develop him as a football player. I can help him graduate. I don't know what he's worth. I don't know what that number is. I can't give you that. I don't know what that is. I've got 33 years of doing it, but I don't know what he's worth. But I can do all those other things for him. And so when it gets down to it from that perspective, if it gets to where I can't just develop kids and do it in the manner that I have talked about, where we recruit freshmen and develop them, then I don't know if I'll go to West Palm Beach, but I'll be on a beach too. We're still in need of recruiting. I think LSU has always been known for, having great defensive players. We're still in the need of developing and recruiting on the defensive side of the ball. I think we're going to be very good again on the offensive side of the ball, but that has flipped, and there's not a balance within the program right now where we have the same kind of players. I think we're going to get there in short order, but I think we're from a recruiting cycle. We need to do another really good job this year and next recruiting on the defensive side of the ball. I think Blake and the staff that we've assembled will do that. I think the sum will be greater than any one of the parts on this football team. I think it'll be a much more balanced team than it was last year. As you know, we were the top offense in the country, but defensively we were not very good. And so I think we'll have a more balanced football team that can compete in the SEC, but we're still needing to recruit on the defensive side of the ball.
All right, 100% agree with him on the NIL cap space, period, bottom line. Every sport has a cap space. Even in baseball and the NBA, they have a cap space, but you can go over a luxury tax, and that's fine. But in the NFL, it's a hard cap space. You can deviate from it a little bit by doing this, kicking the can down the road like Loomis has done for years in the New Orleans Saints. But there needs to be a cap space. There is no uniform in college football right now at all. Now, college NCAA can still handle the NIL, but they can't handle the championship of the bowls because of the Supreme Court ruling years ago. But they still can handle the NIL and the transfer, but they seem to still be stepping all over the you-know-whats. It's just continuing nonstop. There's no leadership, regardless who's at the NCAA president. It needs to come. If they don't get it right, you're going to see some bad things happening in college football. It's going to happen. I don't care how much money they make. Eventually, it's going to happen. Think of yourself as a Fortune 500 company, and if you don't run it right, it's not going to make it. I don't care how much money you've got. Eventually, it's going to go down. That's the exact same way with college football right now. They have to have a cap space. And again, I go back to transfers only, and that's it. If the players want to get money like the pros do, then you got to sign contracts like the pros do, and you got to stick to that contract because you're not held credible, but they are. But everybody else has to be held accountable, but you're not. I don't like that at all. Media still getting on him about his salary. That was the big headlines. Okay, so Brian Kelly goes on this show and talks about NIL cap space, but yet this guy makes $10 to almost $11 million a year. Again, he is a professional. You were supposed to be an amateur. But I'm so tired of them getting on Brian Kelly big time. And I know Kirby Smart's new deal this week didn't help matters much. He's now the highest paid coach, maybe even in NFL. I mean, he's very close to being paid the highest in the National Football League. But Kirby Smart's the highest paid college coach. They didn't need to give him enough. He's not going anywhere. He's coaching at his alma mater. Why you have to give him even more money and make it worse? What is it going to be 10 years from now? A coach is going to be making $20 million a year 10 years from now? It might not even take that long. We're only $7 million away from that now. It's totally out of hand, and they definitely need to do something. So would he retire like Nick Saban? Well, Nick Saban always said that the reason he didn't like going to the pros because he couldn't develop the players. 2 players on the Miami Dolphins team had to be held back from kicking his little short behind when he was with the Miami Dolphins. And so with that being said, and one of them was Zach Thomas, by the way, the linebacker, they had to hold him back. He was going after him. So that's when he just said, you know what? The NFL is not for me. And he was assistant coach for the NFL for years. But being a head coach is a totally different thing. And he got on those players like he did at LSU and like he did at he did at Alabama after that. But he got on his players like that. You can't do that in the National Football League to a certain extent. I think you should be able to, but guys that are making more money than you, like Zach Thomas was, and now he's a Hall of Famer, you can't really do that. So would he retire? I'm going to say you're going to see coaches like Nick Saban possibly retire. I think Nick Saban retired because of NIL and transfer portal. Nick Saban went on TV and bragged about how nobody's leaving Alabama. We don't have that problem. But right after that, it started happening because that's the way this nature of this game is now. And NIL, I've already told you that Alabama does not have one Fortune 500 company and does also not have one billionaire that lives in that state. So he knew that if this don't change, my legacy is going down. Not only am I going to not win national championships, but I'm not going to even be in the playoffs or anything like that. If they get out of hand, if the state of Texas, California, Florida, and those big states, Ohio, starts getting NIL caps and just unbelievable money that they can pay, and there's not a cap on it, eventually that is going to be big for this sport. And guys like Nick Saban and guys like Brian Kelly will say goodbye. And I think that the younger players will not fear the young coaches. You might be able to get away with that in the NFL, maybe. It's still not proven yet. I mean, there's one in L.A., obviously, that he won a Super Bowl, but at the same time, he hadn't done it since then. He's a great coach, but I'll say this, that the young players, 18, 19, 20-year-old players, are not going to be scared of a 29, 30, 31-year-old coach because he's only just a few years older than him. So that's going to be big. That's going to be big. So do you think Kelly is right in building from high school or the transfer portal is another big question that people this week have been talking about. So if you're doing it through football, you're building longevity. Transfers, it's a quick fix. Like Brian Kelly did the first year, quick fix. It takes time sometimes to learn the system. Now, that's what Kiffin is going with, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss right now. He's going by the transfer portals, and he's using it. He hadn't won a championship yet on it. So you got to be very careful on that. The Michigans and those teams that have won the national championship for all those years, the Georgias, They've had a couple of transfers here and there, but they've done it by recruiting high school players. And the high school players have stayed in their system for a long time. And I know this system is tough now because even a second-string 5-star running back is going to want to leave because he's not starting on a regular basis. So you got to be able to play it right. There's no question about that. LSU did not make a big splash in transfer portals this time when it was done last month, May 16th through May 30th. They needed a defensive tackle. They didn't get one. So they had a couple of guys that we're talking to. Is that going to be a big thing for the LSU Tigers if they got two good edge rushers? You've got Perkins, who's going to be probably a delayed blitzer. Then you might be able to get away with it, and that'll put less pressure on the two defensive tackles in the middle. Or if you're going to go on a 3-4 defensive scheme, they'll go on a 4-down lineman, I think, with two edge rushers on the side. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Some media members are still trashing Brian Kelly for leaving Notre Dame. Jonathan, I know you've got to be ticked off about this. I mean, it's enough's enough. All right, bottom line, I'll explain it one more time for you people out there who are upset. The national media, these guys are big paid guys on ESPN, by the way, and they don't get it in their head. If he didn't leave Notre Dame before the recruiting in December, then guess what? Notre Dame players could transfer just like that. And the LSU players that were committed to LSU and not Orgeron would have also left. So he had to leave Notre Dame when he did. Jonathan, those guys still, the ESPN, still not getting it, by the way. They're just not getting it. And also another thing that I'll say this, by the way, this is breaking news. Speaking of ESPN, this is about to be a done deal. It's a handshake deal. It's about to be a signed contract. And obviously the proof's of the pudding. NFL Network is dropping all of their shows. ESPN is about to buy the NFL Network. It could be announced this week or next week that the NFL Network will be purchased by ESPN, and you can see it because all the NFL Network shows are gone. They're all being canceled. They're all being canceled right now, and word is it's a handshake deal. It's done. And that means ESPN will have more control. Won't be able to bash the NFL as much because of the fact now they're going to be hosting, owning one of their own networks and that. So it'll be interesting to see that way that happens. But again, some fans I saw on social media that was talking about Brian Kelly still think Brian Kelly is not the right guy for the job. Come on, give me a break. Are you kidding me? This guy has more active wins than any coach right now at all in college football. Most active. Number one. Now, he hadn't won a national championship because of the fact he was at Notre Dame for all those years. We understand why. Now he's at LSU. And they've won 3 national championships with the 3 last coaches they've had. If Orgeron can do it, you don't think this Brian Kelly guy can do it? Now, again, everything has to be perfect to win a national title. There's no question about that. But there's no doubt in my mind that Brian Kelly can win a national championship at LSU. If he stays long enough, it could be soon. It could be this year because of their schedule. Like I said, not necessarily. Their schedule lines up perfect. All their hard games are at home in Tiger Stadium. They don't have a lot of hard road games at all. It'll be interesting. And then you got a 16-team playoff. So now you're looking good with that. So Jonathan, you got a mic now?
Yeah, I was going to comment, Chris. Brian Kelly certainly does receive a lot of hate, and I just think from an outsider's perspective, it was easy to hate on Coach Brian Kelly. He's an older white gentleman coaching in an independent school at Notre Dame. Never won a national title. Had the most wins, as you mentioned, more than Nick Saban, but hadn't won the big one. Then it comes to LSU, which all the publicity for LSU since 2019, they're the cool team. I mean, they get the gat, they got the gritty, they're sending guys to the pros who have the cool handshakes, they wear the grills, they show their fashion before the games. It was easy to say this wasn't a good fit. Then he came on, he was dancing with recruits. Everybody was like, wait, this vanilla white bread guy from Notre Dame's coming to dance with the recruits. Then he had the accent, whatever he tried to do in one of the, at LSU, say family a weird way or whatever. Caught a lot of hate. And look, it's not going to get better for Coach Brian Kelly until he does win the big one. Certainly has an abundance of resources in this state, Louisiana, the flagship program. Louisiana State, the best facilities around. Going to get recruits, 5 stars in the door. Now he's going to be able to build the defense through Blake Baker, bringing back Corey Raymond, the godfather of DBU. The secondary, the recruits are going to start coming back, and I think that's when Coach Brian Kelly is going to get some of the heat taken off. When you start seeing the LSU of old start having that swagger on defense, look, people weren't used to seeing Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks.
No,
and look, it's been an adjustment for LSU fans, no doubt, to have the number one offense in the land and then struggle so mightily on defense. But
right.
I think things will turn around. The wins speak for themselves. Winning games on Saturdays are not easy, no matter who you play. And look, I think a lot of it is unfair. And until he does win the big one, people are going to hate on Coach Brian Kelly.
I'm so sick of the national media. Those guys really, they make tons of money, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. When they kept saying Brian Kelly is not from the South, they're not going to fit in the South and whatever. Did Nick Saban fit in the South? Nick Saban wasn't from the South. Did Les Miles, did he fit in the South when he won a national title? Did Urban Meyer fit in the South when he won at Florida? I mean, those guys are just absolutely boneheads.
And I think you really make a good point, Chris, that they're mad because they didn't know that Brian Kelly was even available for the LSU job. Lincoln Riley was going to get the job in Baton Rouge, and then, oh, wait, he took the job at USC, and all of a sudden this guy who nobody even knew was on the board is now taking the job in Baton Rouge, and everybody was like, whoa. Well, maybe Brian Kelly was the best coach available with the most wins in college football. And I don't think they even had a clue that his name was being talked about. Scott Woodward certainly did a good job playing his cards close to the vest.
Right.
I think that also rubbed the national media the wrong way because they didn't know what was going on. They had no idea.
Yeah, you never can go by that. Whenever time there's a new coaching search, look at Alabama that we just had it. They had the Oregon coach coming over. You never know. When Nick Saban came over, nobody knew Nick Saban was coming over for Michigan State. Wait, when he was announced, Michigan State, didn't we beat them in the Independence Bowl in Shreveport? I was there for that game. It was a cold game, and we kicked their behinds. But yeah, so you never know. I think what athletic directors do is they tell one of their SIDs, spread it around. We're looking for this guy, and it gets them off that guy. Because if Notre Dame would have found out Brian Kelly was interested in talking to LSU, that would have made Notre Dame shoot up Brian Kelly's contract just like that, and he might not have come. So, yes, Scott Woodward did an absolutely unbelievable job by hiding it and taking his ace out of his sleeve at the last minute. When we come back, we got one of our good friends on the line, Coach Carlos Funchess, the Southern University Lady Jaguar head basketball coach, just made the Louisiana Basketball Hall of Fame this past weekend. We'll talk to him when we come back right here as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports TV.
We already know that TJ Ribs on Acadian I-10 is home to the world-famous baby back ribs. But did you know they're also champs in catering events and the most delicious wings in Baton Rouge? TJ Ribs wings are flavored to perfection and starts a party in your mouth. Served with homemade wing sauce and ranch dressing. TJ Ribs can also cater any event, large or small, with the MVP, the Heisman, or even if you're feeling the Natty Package. Call 225-283-1035. Come enjoy a drink at the 50-foot bar and take a picture with the Heisman Trophy at TJ Ribs, a Baton Rouge original for over 30 years on Acadian and I-10.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouget today.
On the app, and you can also be watching it, of course, on Cox Cable. Seen at 89% of the Metro New Orleans area, over 340,000 in the Baton Rouge area, and 140,000 in the Lafayette area. Thanks for joining us on the program. The head coach of the Lady Jaguars basketball team, Coach Carlos Funchess. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great, Chris. Good to be with you.
Good to have you with us, my friend. Now we could say Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that was a surprise. It's a great honor just to be mentioned with some of the greats that come through the state of Louisiana.
So so you were recruited out of to go to NLU back at that time. Now it's ULM. You were recruited from Copiah Community College in Mississippi to go to NLU. Did any other offers come to you as a senior out of high school?
Yes, I did. I had quite a few offers. Well, coming out of community college, I did. I had quite a few offers from when I left Copiah Lincoln. Went on a few visits. Went to Texas Tech. Went to Mississippi State, Louisiana Tech, and I just felt at home at Northeast at the time. I had a couple of my friends that played there, so I ended up choosing to go to school there. That was one of the best decisions that I've ever made.
1989 to 1981 is when you played there at NLU. Co-MVP of the Southland Conference your senior season. Where on the floor was your favorite shot, Coach?
Well, I shoot the spot up three ball, but, like everybody else, catching those alley-oop dunk shots. That was my favorite. That would just energize the crowd.
Yes, indeed, and there's nothing like that on an energizing crowd of a slam dunk, or like you said, an alley-oop is even more than that. Unbelievable. You made 2 straight NCAA tournament appearances. Conference tournaments are okay, but, boy, when you make NCAA tournaments, that is just night and day. I know when I covered, the NCAA tournament for Southern, whether it was for the ladies, when the first time in 2001, I think we went to Colorado. We also went to Austin. We went to Virginia. So I've had a lot of great time covering Southern women in the NCAA tournament and Southern men as well. NCAA tournament is just a different beast. When you make the NCAA tournament, man, you felt like you've done something.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great honor to play in that tournament. They've always done a great job. You get a lot of notoriety as far as an institution. Just establishing yourself as one of the best schools in the country. There's only 64 teams that get a chance to participate in that tournament.
Right.
So to win that to get there is a great accomplishment. And I was blessed enough to be able to make it there twice. So we went 2 for 2. I only played 2 years at North. Mm-hmm. It was great to win 2 regular season championships and win the tournament. So we had a lot of good times.
Now, okay, so I didn't know this. You won the Slam Dunk National Championship in 1991?
Yes, I won I think that was the second annual Slam Dunk contest. They invited, I think it was 10 of us throughout the country to come and participate in that at the Final Four. It actually was right after the Indiana Pacers game, and it was a packed house. I mean, there was probably 17,000 people in there, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that was in Indianapolis that year. That's right. Final Four was in Indianapolis. Duke won the national championship. Yep. So let me ask you, what was your favorite slam dunks? Was it the windmill? Did they have that back then? Was it the Statue of Liberty? Did you jump from the free throw line like Michael Jordan?
Did some windmills, Chris, some 360s and things. They've gotten a little bit more innovative now, passing it through the legs and all that stuff. But we would toss it off the backboard. But, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
So you know what we ought to do now? Have athletic director Roman Banks stand up right under the goal, and you jump over his head and slam dunk it. Could you still do that?
I wish I could. They've been long gone for me.
Yeah, I know that, my friend, because you and I are about the same age, my man. So when did you start being an assistant coach at Southern? What year?
I'm sorry, when did I come to Southern?
Yeah, what year did you start being an assistant coach?
2005.
Oh, 2005.
was my first year here at Southern, coaching with, of course, Coach Sandy Pugh. And I've been here ever since. I mean, it's hard to believe that it's been 19 years. This coming year will be my year here.
Wow. Yeah, you started as head coach 2018. You won the SWAC tournament title that year, 2018-2019, in your first season. Second time you won it was 2 years ago, 2022-23. What does it take for you to stay on top?
Number one, I have a great staff, and that lays the foundation for what you're going to do as far as getting the right people in here, the right players and things like that. I have a tremendous staff. I think they checked all the boxes. And then getting the right players in here. And then, of course, you have to have discipline. We don't just take any players just because they play. We want the right people. We have a family-oriented group of young ladies, and, that's the young ladies that we target and that we recruit to come in and play as one unit.
Your former head coach, when you played, Mike Venning, won 401 games at NLU and said you were one of the best. What did you take from him as your coach, and do you use that today?
I do. I mean, he's kind of like myself, to be honest. Well, I'm kind of like him. Kind of laid back, but, discipline at times when you need to have discipline, but he really cared about us as players, and in turn, we did the same for him as a coach, and that just made us want to play it even harder for him and try to be successful. But he was really big on just team, not one person carrying the entire team, but everybody playing a part in it. And that's some of the things that I still carry with me to this day.
So nobody could ever take this away from you, the Hall of Fame. When you got that call that you were going to be in the Hall of Fame, what was your reaction?
I was surprised. One thing, I only played 2 years here in the state of Louisiana, and that's what they base everything on. I did coach on the men's side for 7 years under Coach Vining, and, I don't know if that played a part in it, but was surprised. And then some of the statistics that they read off at the banquet on Saturday night, I didn't know myself. To say I didn't know, but it's a privilege and an honor just to be mentioned in the same breath as some of these greats like the Shaquille O'Neal, the Karl Malones. And Coach Vining is in the Hall of Fame as a coach. So, it's a tremendous honor.
No question. Did you hear from people that you didn't expect, maybe former teammates and what have you, that you didn't expect you'd hear from forever when you were announced to the Hall of Fame?
Oh, I heard from tons of people. Some people I hadn't heard in years, but a lot of them. We still keep in contact, especially some of my former teammates. I talked to just about all of them, and all of them have been successful also. Casey Jones was my point guard. He won a state championship at Wiseman High School this past year.
Yeah.
Another Philip Craig, he's administrator at Melville. He coached for a long time. So all the things that we learned back in those days from Coach Vining, the discipline and that it takes to be successful, I mean, they carry over into everyday life for us.
Wow, that is unbelievable. So let's talk about the Lady Jaguars basketball team going in to this upcoming season. How many positions do you have to fill for the next season?
Chris, it's going to be a change for us. We're going to have 7 to 8 new players coming back into the fold. So, and to go along with 6 that we had returning. So it's going to be a new look, but same style of basketball. Hopefully we'll be tenacious defensively. And be a little bigger on the wings. I thought we needed to get a little bigger at those guard spots to keep competing with some of the teams in the league. But we're going to play hard. You're going to have a different style of basketball and good young ladies out there representing the program.
You have the potential right now. You're reaching almost 2 million people in the New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette metro areas and what have you. So right now, for recruits out there listening, if you come to Southern University, you have a chance of playing. Because what I like about Carlos Funchess is he uses his bench. That's your MO, Coach. Where did you get that from? Because I've never seen a coach. You can see the 5 starters come out at one given time and 5 bench players will come right in. That looks like a hockey replacement right there. So where did you get that MO to where I'm going to use my bench on a regular basis? There was one coach, I forgot what coach was it. I can't remember what coach it was. Wade. Coach Wade, former LSU coach, is now at McNeese. Will Wade. He said the bench is overrated and what have you. I don't think so. I think bench points is a big part of the stat sheet. And if your starters do well, do decent, and your bench point scores a lot of points, chances are you're going to win that basketball game. So I disagree with him. I agree with you. I think you should be able to use your bench on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we've been fortunate enough to have talented players, and it's not a big difference from our starting point guard, our second string point guard, all 1 through 10 or 11. We have a balanced team just about every year, and this year it's going to be the same. I want to be able to play at least 10 or 11 players and wear other teams down. And I think down the stretch it helps you. And it helps practice, because if you know you're going to play, that's going to keep you locked in practice every day. So it just helps the morale of the team when everybody knows that they're going to get an opportunity to play.
Also, something that's not done in the NBA today, and several general managers and coaches have complained about the way the men's team is not playing defense like they used to. Your MO is defense. Your defense is very good. It's always been that way. How do you get these athletes to be as aggressive on defense as they are?
Well, using your bench is one thing. You're going to be able to keep them fresh, because most of the times when you get tired, most players are going to rest on the defensive end. Now, I have an excellent defensive coordinator, Coach Jeremy Bowden. He's going to do an awesome job of getting them ready to play. I mean, we're going to scout the other teams, and we're going to do a good job of prep. But, that energy level has to be up. And when you're playing fresh players each and every possession, I think that's really going to help you, especially defensively.
Are you happy with the height now? I think this past draft of college women's basketball has been unbelievable, and I think it's a trendsetter, and I think the popularity of the college women's basketball is getting better and better and better. I'm sure you're happy to see that.
I am, and I thought that ESPN just tapped into a market that's been there for a while. Women's basketball has continued to get better and better over the last 10 to 20 years. And they saw a lot of potential in it. I thought they started doing a great job of marketing women's basketball, and the people responded. They liked the product. So I think it's going to continue to grow, and hopefully, we'll reap the benefits of that.
No question about that. So one last question, what made you decide to go on the women's side and not stay on the men's side? Because on the women's side, you got to have a lot of patience. You might not be able to get down a player's throat as much as you can on the men's side. For the women's side, it seems like to me, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd have to have more patience. So what made you decide to go on the women's side?
Well, it's funny how that happened. I actually coached under one of the greats doing travel ball, AAU basketball. Linda Harper, who actually got it Northeast to the Final Four, believe it or not. They went to the Final Four, I think it was the year 1984. But she really introduced me into coaching on the women's side. I helped her doing AAU travel ball season one summer, and after that I was hooked. And I had 7 of our players from that team playing on the Northeast team. So she had Mona Martin had an opening, who was the coach there at the time, and she called me and came by to visit. I was actually the compliance officer, and talked me into coming. So her and the rest of the girls, I wasn't planning on coaching. They wore me down and got me on the board, and I coached there with her for 2 years. We won the championship the year before I came down. That was the Southland Conference last year of competition, I think, before they went to Southland Conference, Northeast.
Right.
Before they went to the Sun Belt Conference. And I came down and been with Sandy Pugh, was with Sandy Pugh up until she left to go to Fairview.
Man, I had no idea NLU was in the Final Four, because, man, you've got now Louisiana Tech dominated back in those days with Kim Mulkey as a player and assistant coach. And then, obviously, NLU making the Final Four. That's impressive. So Northeast Louisiana had a big footprint on the women's basketball back in the 1980s.
And that was back in the Kim Mulkey days. Her
right.
Onjung Lee. I don't know if you know that name or not, but she was a Kodak first-team All-American point guard, and she led that team, her and Lisa Ingram. That was back in 84. They got beat by Cheryl Miller, the great Cheryl Miller, and USC in the Final Four that year.
Wow. Well, Coach, congratulations on your Hall of Fame. Unbelievable. Everybody knows now what we always see in you. You're an unbelievable coach for Southern University. Thank you so much for being on the program, and congratulations, Coach. Hall of Famer, Coach Carlos Funchess.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Coach. When we come back, we're talking LSU softball, Southern baseball, and a lot more when we come back right here. Talking sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports TV.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton & Fouget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Funchess today.
We already know that TJ Ribs on Acadia and I-10 is home to the world-famous baby back ribs. But did you know they're also champs in catering events and the most delicious wings in Baton Rouge? TJ Ribs wings are flavored to perfection and starts a party in your mouth. Served with homemade wing sauce and ranch dressing. TJ Ribs can also cater any event, large or small, with the MVP, the Heisman, or even if you're feeling the Natty Package. Call 225-283-1035. Come enjoy a drink at the 50-foot bar and take a picture with the Heisman Trophy at TJ Ribs, a Baton Rouge original for over 30 years on Acadian and I-10.
All right, welcome back, everybody, as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers. The LSU Lady Tigers softball team took 2 out of 3 to Liberty this weekend. It concerns me that LSU is not out of their slump yet because they didn't dominate. Even though LSU was ranked number 3 going into that in the RPIs, they didn't dominate that series like they should have. Liberty, I think, was 19-14 going into that series, so LSU should have absolutely dominated them. But, folks, like in baseball, softball is beating everybody up. Alabama is barely making it. They're going to be the 9th seed in the SEC tournament. Oklahoma got beat 2 out of 3 by Oklahoma State this weekend. So everybody's beating everybody up. It's so much parity in both baseball and softball that it's not even funny. LSU Lady Tigers will be 8th seed in the SEC tournament. They'll be in the NCAA tournament, and it looks like they're going to host an NCAA tournament. Don't know about a super regional yet. I think they have to win pretty deep in the SEC tournament to be able to maybe host a super regional. They will play number 9 seeded Alabama Crimson Tide. The Crimson Tide have lost 7 out of their last 10 games. Game time is set for Wednesday at 10 a.m. If they win that game, they got to play Tennessee on Thursday at 10 a.m. And it's a single elimination tournament, by the way. So one, you're done, and you're getting ready for the NCAA tournament. The tournament will be in Auburn, Alabama. This team's loaded on paper, but again, like I told you earlier, if this game was played on paper, you'd have paper cuts and not surgeries from elbows, knees, and all of that stuff. All right, Southern Baseball beat Alcorn State twice this weekend. That was yesterday. They couldn't play Friday and Saturday because of the condition of the field, because of all the rain. They will play, as we're recording this show on a Monday, they play today against the Alcorn State Braves. That game will be over in Lehigh Stadium, right there on the campus of Southern University, so watch out for that. They have 2 series left as well. They play UAPB this weekend. It was 5-17, and then they'll wrap up the season at home against Grambling State for senior weekend, May 16th through 18th. Grambling is 16-6. They're second place in the SWAC. Southern is in 3rd place in the SWAC, so they've got work to do there as well. And I will be at that game in 2 weeks at the I was supposed to do the broadcast on the radio this weekend, but again, it was called because of all of the rain. We didn't get to do it on Saturday. I'll have a Friday and a Saturday game, which will be on the 17th and 18th. We'll do that on Friday to be on Q106.5, on XOK. We'll be on XOK. So that's going to do it for us this week as we talk sports right here. Thanks to Jonathan. Thanks to Alan. Thanks to Marty and all the crew over here. Had a good time. Thanks to Carlos Funchess and, of course, Chris Blair. We'll catch you here next week right here as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers, on Pelican Sports TV.